Hi, Alex from the American Guitar Academy, and I'm here today with Mr. Nick Johnston. Thank you very much for coming by.
Oh,
and
it's my pleasure.
With us.
We were just talking. I had seen him 10 years ago.
Yes.
At a guitar clinic in Guildford.
In the UK, as in Guildford.
It was in Guildford.
Hotel.
At a hotel.
2015.
In my room. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was not in this room, but that was afterwards. But that wasn't about guitar. So we're here today, just having a coffee, talking about guitar, nothing too serious, and yeah, I really appreciate you coming along. So,
my pleasure.
Just quickly, because something that we've discovered before is there's so much biographical information everywhere. Everyone knows everything about someone if they just search on Wikipedia or on a website or something.
Yes, so unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's not always true, but sometimes it is. Could be interesting. But why don't you give us a quick, just a quick rundown of how you started playing, just really briefly.
So my name is Nick. I started playing guitar in 2000. Seems like a lifetime ago now. I'm 37, so I would have been 13 or 14. And I grew up in a really small town of about 100 people in southern Canada. And one day I heard my neighbor playing guitar in his basement. So I went over and sent an analog text, I guess. Knocked on the door as he used to do. And he let me watch him play guitar, and I borrowed his guitar that night, and I immediately was enchanted. And then started making records in the early 2010s. Started touring pretty much when I was about 19. My parents said, don't come home after high school till you get a job. And I did just that. Joined a band. And since then, I've just been releasing music independently. I've released across several projects 10 albums now, which is pretty interesting. And I've been working with a guitar company. Where am I looking, by the way? Here?
There's three cameras. Look whichever one you like.
For about 10 years, I've been working with Schecter. I have a signature model with them, and I've just been touring and staying busy.
Having fun along the way.
A little bit of fun. A little bit of fun.
I mean, it's some fun, some some painful moments, I'm sure as well.
That's the whole roller coaster ride.
Well, the painful moments make the rest of it much nicer anyway. That's how I see it.
Totally.
So I know that you're in Japan doing some more clinics and stuff, and you've done some in Europe recently and in China as well, I believe.
Yeah, this year was pretty busy. I kind of did a whole sort of world tour, I guess you would call it. This year I was with my tour manager more than my wife this year. We kind of joke about that. So I was in, what was I doing? In the last couple months I was in South America, then Mexico, and then Europe, Asia. I did a full tour across Asia, and then some stuff in Japan. Then I went home for 2 days, and
so just
always just do it. Yeah. So,
how do you prepare differently for a gig where you're performing songs compared to when you're doing a clinic?
I don't do any preparation, to be completely honest with you. I like to kind of just go into these tours with a clear head. I don't practice when I'm on tour. I don't like to overthink things. I find as long as I'm eating and sleeping, I find I'm at the point now where if I'm not ready for the gig, I never will be. I like to just go up on stage, especially if it's a guitar clinic or a show where it's maybe more intimate. I like to just see what's going to happen. I don't really like to practice. I kind of find working on the repertoire, or whatever you call that, kind of like a drill into the side of my head. So I kind of just keep things as natural and as loose as humanly possible, which is not great advice. Practice, please.
I think it's different for everyone.
It is. It's totally, and it's
you have to find your own way of doing it.
Yeah, and it's a mental thing. If I overthink, I get in my own head, and I start to kind of question what I'm playing. And that thing you're doing when you're playing, and as you're playing, you're overanalyzing what you're playing. That is sort of the worst possible place I think you could be when you're playing live. You want to just exist in the moment, and especially, at least for me, because I like to improvise a lot, just like to try stuff.
Exactly.
I don't always land on my feet.
But that's the best way to learn as well. For me, when I I was self-taught for 5 or 6 years, and then I had my first lesson. And then when I went to university, I just started learning about theory and getting really into some really deep, complicated stuff. And my playing got worse because then I was thinking about it too much.
Right.
And I was like, does this scale work over this progression? What arpeggio could I superimpose here?
Right.
And it was actually harder to unlearn the stuff but retain the information and be able to use it than it was to learn it initially.
It's kind of like getting the flu. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Exactly, yeah, almost. So
you went to school. Where did you go to school?
So I went to ACM in Guildford. So that's where I was. That's where I was studying when you came through and did the clinic.
Right. Was that was Sam Bell involved in that school at all?
No, I think he's involved in BIM, which is one of the other kind of big players.
Yeah. I remember I was good friends with him for a while.
Yeah, I think I've met Sam in passing. I've seen him play a few times as well.
Cool guy, yeah.
He played just before I moved here. He played at one of the Jeff Beck tribute shows that they did in Guildford. Actually, that was a really good show.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great player. So, at the risk of opening a giant can of worms,
open it. Peel it back.
I mean, there's a can open here somewhere. So, how do you feel in the argument with tone wood? So for me, I think as long as the guitar feels and it resonates enough, I'm not too worried about what it's made from.
Right.
Especially, I use a Kemper, so I think that maybe could mask a few differences as well. But where do you stand on this?
I don't hear the difference with any of them.
At all?
No, I don't hear any difference. I think it's a lot of... I mean, tone is so psychological. The person listening, you know, you could be up on stage and they could hear the most beautiful guitar sound, but if it feels stiff or like it's fighting you in any way, it doesn't really matter what you're playing. The tone. So for me, it's probably more in the amp and the guitar pickups. The wood, I mean, maybe it's going to contribute. I'm not a physicist or whatever science would be involved in what, I almost swore that, what wood sounds like, for God's sake. I use a Wenge neck and an ebony fingerboard because I like the way it looks.
Just more of an aesthetic.
And I also like the natural wood because when you play it a lot, you really break the guitar in, the neck starts to feel fantastic. Just to feel really comfortable. So for me, it's more just what does the guitar feel like? Do I get inspired when I look at it, pick it up? I've compared, you know, the same guitar with different woods. I can't hear a damn thing different. And maybe that's just my ears. Maybe I have certain frequencies I've lost from listening to loud music over the years. But more importantly, to go deeper than that, I don't care because it has nothing to do with me getting better at playing guitar. So I don't care.
Exactly. Yeah. So I play Sir guitars. So not too
beautiful
dissimilar.
Guitars.
Exactly. Not too dissimilar from the kind of the look and the vibe the Schecter that you play. When I played,
I think John used to work at Sunset Custom for David Schecter actually.
Possibly.
And so did Tom Anderson and James Tyler.
There you go. I mean, it's all part of one big family, really. So when I tried my guitar, first thing, it's got like a roasted, satin finish kind of maple neck, beautiful. And I think it looked really cool, but also it wasn't sticky at all. It didn't fight me.
You don't want anything fighting.
Exactly, and it's so resonant. I strummed a G chord, and it seemed like it rang out for an hour. Nice. I didn't time it, but it just kept going and going and going. I know people that have done that.
Oh, okay, that's crazy.
And I think that's far too. I mean, I think they've lost the main vision if they do that. But it kept going forever, and then it just spoke to me, and so I didn't really care what it was made from. It just looked really. I couldn't even tell you now what the body's made from.
Right.
No idea.
Right.
It's painted sunburst, so I couldn't tell by the look. But it's just more of a feel and aesthetic for me.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, guitar is it's so hard to play guitar. It's such a hard instrument to.
It's unnatural sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, just to be consistent it's so hard, you know. And I don't think anything's going to help you develop a better tone or develop a better feel than just playing. I spent first almost 6 or 7 years playing a Squier Bullet. I didn't have any money, so you know I don't know what the hell that thing was made of, but it definitely wasn't made of AAA flame maple. You know.
Can you
So it's just,
imagine? There's somewhere there's got to be a Squire bullet.
There might
that
be.
They thought, you know what? Let's really mess with someone.
There might be one from the '80s made in Japan that's like
Crazy.
super high end, very nice.
Possibly.
But yeah, at the risk of just sounding ignorant and stupid, I don't hear a difference. I really don't. And I've heard, guys play a 59 next to a 2022 Les Paul. I don't hear a difference. I hear a guy playing a Schecter with 3 single coil handmade pickups and a guy playing a Strat. I don't hear it. I only hear the hands of the player. That's it. You and I can play the same guitar. It'll sound totally different.
Exactly.
That's the magic. It has nothing to do with what tree it came from. That's what I think. I don't know. I don't know.
I think
I really don't know.
Too many people get too worked up about it.
Yeah, I just go back to why I play guitar, and I like the sound a guitar makes, and I like writing music, and I could do it on a $100 guitar or a $4,000 guitar. It doesn't matter.
As long as it stays in tune.
As long as it stays in tune.
It feels all right to play, then I'm usually pretty happy.
So I stay out of those arguments, and I see people talking about it in videos, and I just, have fun.
Yeah, I tend to skip past that bit.
Have fun.
Go
I'll be over here, just...
So, talking about tone specifically, you said it's more of a psychological thing. I think sometimes as well you have to think about the bigger picture of what context you're playing in. And I won't lie to you, I would be honest, because we're just two mates talking about guitar, but when I've heard you play by just solo guitar, not a fan of the tone personally.
Right.
But when I saw the clinic and when I listened to Atomic Mind, in the mix, it worked amazing. And that made me think more about how I would approach my own tone, because I had to envision what it would be like at the end of the pathway, rather than having a really big sound to start off with. How could it fit with everything else? Given, because I think it was just drums and bass you had on there as well, for the most part.
Right.
So you had to fill out the sound quite a bit, but be kind of careful with what frequencies you accentuate, I guess. Do you have any different approach for tone with sounds, or you just plug into an app if it sounds good, then you go ahead?
Yeah, it depends on what the room you're in. I have no trick or no method. I don't think about that. I just think about if I'm in the room and how big is the room, how hard does the drummer hit. But I move around on stage a lot, and it sounds different depending where you stand. I mean, it's tone, it's sound, so it's not just it's not a direct laser beam. It's messy and it's scattered like a shotgun blast. So it depends where you stand, and that's also psychological, because if you're in the crowd hearing something in a PA, it's not going to sound the same as it is on stage. Also depending on the microphone you use. You're using a Kemper, so it's direct. Sometimes, maybe. I'm not sure.
Usually, the best results I've had with the Kemper is through a Mesa 212 I had before. So what I'd do is I'd have the cab on stage and then also run it into the PA as well. Okay,
cool. Yeah, so it depends. I mean, I've also been doing these tours for so many years that I don't get to use the same amp every night. I could show up in Indonesia and all they have is a Mesa Boogie with a broken gain channel, and I have to make it work, or it's messy and sloppy, and to me it's more important about playing to the tone, not assuming you can play the same thing with every tone you get. If I plug into that, I'm probably not going to play the same way I would play through Friedman with a gain boost. It'd be stupid. It'd be ridiculous to try and do that. So it's more about tailoring your guitar playing to what's coming out of the amp, as opposed to why isn't this sounding the same as when I'm with my perfect sound.
Exactly.
So that's more important to me.
So I think it's another skill, something else that we have to learn as well, is to be able to figure out with any equipment that we're given, at least get in the ballpark. So I was playing the 80s kind of metal cover band many years ago. We did Foreigner and Ozzy Osbourne and songs like that. Quite cheesy stuff, but it was a really big show. There was, I think, 2,000 people. It was quite a big show.
Cool.
And the backline was a Fender Twin.
Oh.
And that was it. And the bass amp had all the controls glued on maximum. So we all had a bit of a challenge to try and glued. And the bass player was using a 5-string active bass, and he had to be really careful that he didn't kill everyone with all the ridiculous low ends. So that's a skill in itself, being able to carve the tone out, I think. Cool. In terms of technology, guitar-wise, be it camper modeling, profiling, things like that, or manufacturing techniques, better quality control. Do you think that there's anything that's been like a really important advancement in the last few years, last couple of decades? Things to help a modern guitar
I mean,
player?
I guess, when I was, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 28.
It's almost a trick question then. Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember. I usually have to ask my wife. She's 6 days older than me.
6 days.
6 days exactly. So I have to ask her.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, the stuff that started coming out was the Pod, and the Korg Toneworks and all that stuff, and that was sort of an updated version of the stuff in the '80s, the MP1 and all that stuff. I guess. It's more convenient now to get a better tone at home, which is great for demos. I think now, more than ever, it's a great time to be a bedroom musician if you're making YouTube videos or whatever the hell you're doing, TikTok. But just straight up getting a decent tone, a high-fidelity tone for demos. That, to me, has been an amazing advancement. So plugins and I have a quad Cortex I use at home. Sometimes I take it on the road if I know I'm not going to get something I can use. But that's also done something to my ear, a negative thing to my ear, I think. An analog signal has peaks and like proper arcs to it, whereas a digital it has.
Yeah,
there's no peaks and valleys. It's not real. So, digital sound doesn't happen naturally in nature. So, I think with all the advancements of simplicity and convenience, it comes at a price of properly, learning how to play with an analog signal. And that, you can take that or leave it. It doesn't matter. Do what you got to do. But the way when you plug into a loud amplifier, you turn it on and you have tubes burning and the guitar plugs straight into that, is so difficult to play. It's like trying to nail an egg to the wall. Like it's messy and it's alive and it's burning and you smell it. It literally smells like burning hair. The tubes are on fire. But then you turn it down, now it sounds different. You turn it up, it sounds better. But then it's too loud. I think there's this give and take with technology versus what has always been, and you give up something with that convenience, and what you give up to me is developing your hands, because learning how to play with feedback, learning how to play with 60 cycle hum, learning how to play without a noise gate. I played a venue in Edinburgh once, and it was such an old venue. The buzz was louder than the guitar signal, and I remember having to learn how to play with that. And it ended up being a great show because I was trying different stuff. I was playing the volume knob and the tone knob more. So there's an artistry to playing with analog gear. There really is, and it pushes you. And that's great. I think there's something really special about still playing guitar in that respect. It's like the piano. The keyboard's great, but playing a real piano, it's alive and it still moves. Same thing with a guitar and an amplifier. But if you're just at home, you live in an apartment, of course, you can't have that. So I think there's a convenience with the DSP. Everything's so powerful now. That's great. But to me, it's still, if I'm making a record, I put 4 amps in a room and I mic them up. That's an impossible sound to... You can't replicate it with a plugin. I don't care what you say. You can debate it, and I'll agree with you, but in my head, I will not agree with you.
Yeah, it's that. So to me, there is something, as you said, visceral about playing with a real amp. But I think it swings and roundabouts. I played a Mesa Boogie in the UK, but because of the power transformer in it, I wouldn't have been able to use it here unless I'd done all the work to get it changed over. So I bought a Kemper, which will work anywhere.
Totally.
And it's been useful as well, and many venues here are quite small, so they have an amp that I can plug into, or I have a HX Stomp that I use as well, because I've toured with that a lot, so I can
Right.
just plug it into anything,
Yep.
and it sounds pretty good. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about songwriting.
Sure.
So I remember either reading or watching a video or something many years ago where you said, I think it was specifically with Ghost of the Robot Graveyard, that you wrote
It's a deep cut.
on piano first.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you do a lot? Do you like to have?
Yeah, I don't think
difficulty?
I've ever written a song that I've released. Let's see. I think everything I've ever released has been written on piano. Everything.
Is it like piano specifically for a reason, or
Yeah. I for whatever reason, maybe it's just the way the guitar is laid out, the architecture of the neck, and trying to grab harmony and audition harmony seems to be a little bit more, at least for me, a little bit more accessible on a piano. Like literally playing a chord and immediately, okay, that's the harmony I want, or that's the melody I want. Seeing, I'm self-taught, so seeing how, for me, the piano has evolved in my mind, the way the keys fit. There's no key. It's open. There's no concept of diatonic, non-diatonic. It's all up for grabs. Whereas the guitar, maybe just because of psychologically the way I learned when I was younger, the frets just it feels like little gates that keep me out. Whereas the piano, it's immediately open. And that's why, if you do listen to my music from the beginning to what I've been releasing, it's getting more cinematic, it's getting a little bit more dense, and the music's longer, and the arrangements are more elaborate. Because it's an orchestra, the piano, it laid out like an orchestra, and it just seems to make a little bit more sense for me. Even like riffs, I find I just don't. Plus, I find if I can remove technique from the equation,
you're less
even
constrained?
better. Even better,
exactly.
yeah. I kind of joke that, playing piano is like my dad trying to find the X on his iPhone. There. But guitar, I can sit there and do the thing all day. I don't necessarily want that. That's cool for like playing over backing tracks and stuff like that, but it's not really going to satiate that need of harmony and melody. And I can't see that changing. I still feel the guitar is more of a performance instrument for me. It's not really a writing instrument for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So was it Atomic Mind that you had Brian Bella and Mark Miniman play on? Was it that record?
Yeah, they
was.
played on that one. Brian played on 2 records, and Mark played on that one. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so how was it? This is the question that a friend of mine we were discussing, and I mentioned it, and I was going to speak to you.
Cool.
So with Silver Tongue Devil, it was basically Nick Johnston featuring the Aristocrats.
Yeah, I guess it
So
is.
how
So funny.
So how do you? Was it somewhat nerve-wracking knowing that you're trading licks with Guthrie? Because I don't know how I'll deal with that.
I
personally.
had done it with him on the previous album too. So
Okay.
he played on an album I put out called "In a Locked Room on the Moon," and there was sort of an even longer solo trade-off on that song. And I'd gotten to know him pretty well, so no, I mean, he's great. So I'm really good at, for whatever reason, I'm really good at not comparing myself to what other people are doing. I think from a young age, because I'm the middle child, I always had to kind of fight for my place. I just got away from like, what's he doing? Even with guitar playing from the very beginning, I at the time everybody was playing. If I get my timeline right, everybody was playing an Axe Effects and a John Petrucci model at the time when I was making these early records, and I was playing Strat. So like even then I wasn't like, well, I should. What's he doing? Oh my God, I don't sound like these. So when I had a chance to work with Guthrie, I just be myself, and he didn't agree to do it because of my name or because of the money I could provide. I was nobody. He liked the song, so the pressure didn't exist because I just thought, I'll do my best. He's gonna do his best. I got at the time probably the best progressive rock band backing me up. Between those two guys.
I've seen them a few times.
Yeah.
It's such a great band.
So I don't know. I've been since the very beginning. I've been very good, and maybe that's why I still still like putting records out consistently is I do not care what other people do. I don't care. Guthrie could play me under the table. Doesn't matter. As long as I get to express myself the way I wanted to. I was, quite young then. I think the album came out in 2014. I think I'd done all that stuff in 2012. It was a couple years before it came out. It's my early mid-20s, so I was like, oh well, this is just a bonus. If and I knew too at that time that Guthrie was like truly on fire. Like he was touring so much and he was so busy and so he was a force of nature. There's no way you're going to compete with him. So I just have fun.
That's the thing with Guthrie. I've met him a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And he's always just a really nice guy.
He's great,
as well.
man.
And he makes a lot of time for everyone.
He's great. He'll stand there, roll a cigarette,
exactly,
smoke it while he's rolling another one, smoke it, and talk to you all day.
And
then 18 beers.
Exactly, and it's just cool. And I think
he's
that's
great.
Too many people are too hard on themselves or on other people.
Man,
just have fun with it. That's the main thing.
When you get to that level, and I, on a previous record also, I had another one of my heroes playing. When you get to a level like that, they don't care about technique because they've already done. They've done it all. They those guys grew up in the '80s too, and '70s when guitar technique was truly like a solar flare. It was like Jason Becker, Marty Friedman, Greg Howe, Yngwie came. Like they've seen it all. What am I gonna do? So it's just sort of like they like the song. We have a good conversation, and it is what it is.
That's something I have with students a lot as
Yeah.
well. I have some students that have been playing for longer than I've been alive, and they like to strum really basic chords and play some Oasis songs or some Bob Dylan, and they just love it, and they come to the lesson just to have a jam and hang out more than anything.
That's great, yeah.
And then you get other people that are like, oh, why aren't I as good as my friend who can do this scale? Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Do you enjoy it? And then who cares,
I think that's impossible to teach, though. I think it's sort of something you have to learn.
You have an epiphany
You
somewhere
gotta learn
along
for
the
yourself.
way.
And it really does happen through failing a lot, too. Like, you can be great in your bedroom. And this kind of, I guess this goes back to the amp thing, too. Maybe. You can be great in your bedroom. You got your coffee and you get your speakers and your backing track. You're great. You're sitting down, you're comfortable, and you're in your bathrobe and whatever. Killing it. Second you go on stage, the drummer's loud, you dropped your pick, you hit your head on the mic stand, like, you gotta fail, I think. You gotta fail, you gotta break a string. I did this thing, there's a company called Sheet Happens that does a lot of releases for instrumental guitars and metal bands and stuff. They're based in Toronto where I live. And I was doing this sort of like the maiden voyage of them doing these really high-end produced masterclass events. And it was, all tickets sold. It was great. It was cool. And I go up there and I was sort of playing. It's like a 4-camera shoot film. The first thing I do, I play and I break the high E string. And it's like, but you talk through it, and then I quickly change the guitar. I go play again. I break it again. And younger me would just crawl into the rug, light myself on fire, like just want to do anything to get out of there. But it's like whatever. It's just music. It's just music. You will get better if you do it a lot, and especially if you get up on stage and put yourself in a position to be vulnerable. The biggest leaps and bounds I ever made in my guitar playing have been doing these guitar clinics, because I've done 40 of these tours now, which is ridiculous. I go up and I have to entertain a room, sometimes in a language maybe they don't even know what the hell I'm saying. And I have to improvise. I think when I did that one that you saw, that was maybe the first tour I had done with that type of thing. So since then, it's been 10 years and whatever, hundreds and hundreds of these events. That's the true growth and the failure and the sitting in your hotel room wondering, what the hell am I doing here? And, self-doubt and all that stuff. And you come out of the other side, you go, yeah, technique. Yeah, like being the best and all. It doesn't matter. It's just, am I enjoying getting up on stage? And because, being on stage and playing the music you wrote, you took the time to produce and write and be vulnerable and show people, even down to the song titles and the album art. That is, I have all the respect in the world for people that can do that because it's easy to judge and it's easy to think, hey, he's not as good as him or whatever. But it's just the act of doing it and putting yourself in that position. That's really where those watershed and huge moments happen in playing, I think. You can practice at home, and that's great. But it doesn't always translate until you fail endless times.
Yes, you have to. So, without naming any names or places or anything, something that Takahiro and I were talking about earlier on, what's the worst gig you've ever done?
The worst gig I've ever done? I could say names and places. I don't really
Oh, well, then go for it.
The first time, it kind of has a bit of a happy ending, but the first time I went to Germany to play, I was in the north of Germany, and I can't remember what city it was, but I remember I was playing. It always seems to happen in Germany. But I remember I was really young. This is maybe just after I met you, maybe a year after. I was up there playing, and went in, and I was just on stage, just sweating because the crowd was giving me nothing. Just sitting there, and I'm like going between songs, you know how it is, right?
Mm.
And then I get off stage, and I'm like, that was the worst thing. And the promoter's like, oh my God, they loved it. I was like, what? He goes, the fact that they stayed, that means they loved it. And I just was like, what? So like the cultures are so different.
Yeah.
And then another time I played again, and I remember a guy came up to me after the show. It was in Germany again, and he goes, "It was good. Last time was better." I was like,
very direct.
Yeah. But to me, there's no. I haven't really had any bad shows because this sounds bad, but I always kind of go in. I don't go in with high expectations. I just go in. I'm gonna play, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be bad. I might have an off night and have an on night, whatever. I've had things that are out of my control. Like did this tour with a band called Polyphia a long time ago, and we were in France, and the promoter, it was a rock club until like 11, and then it turned into like a dance club. So like I had to go on at like 5 o'clock before doors even opened because this guy needed to make more money and it's like I played for no one. So but that has nothing to do with the gig. It's just oh, this is the position I'm in where I've come all this way and I'm playing for the guy behind the bar just like mopping up. I'm just like, and in the early days when I was getting started, it was playing for janitors, playing for sound guys, like, all sorts of that.
Yeah, we've all been there.
We've all been there,
exactly.
So yeah, anything now is just a bonus. I've never fallen on stage. I've never knocked an amp over. So all good.
But I mean, there's still time. Yeah, you never know.
There's still time.
Always. So one final thing then. It's more of a 3-part thing. So. Short piece of advice, maybe one word or a few words for someone that's a beginner, an intermediate player, and an advanced player.
Ooh, the beginner, I think it's a long road if you're serious about it. It's
never-ending road.
Yeah. It's just exactly. It's just finding a practice, finding a spark that keeps you interested in playing guitar. It was easy for me. I was obsessed with it from a very, very young age. From the beginning, because I had very low self-esteem and I was very introverted and a depressed child, and guitar made me feel better. So that was an easy fix for me. But you got to find something about it, and it's not always just going through a practice book and running the skiffs, because that can kind of kill you a little bit sometimes. So it's finding things that you like to play, finding people you like to play. Intermediate, get on stage as much as you can. I know it's hard sometimes. Find a way to get in front of people and make a fool of yourself.
Even if it's just the one man.
It doesn't matter. Anything. School talent show. I've played everywhere. I've played in bakeries. I've played in. Imagine like a Lawson's or a Family Mart. I've played in places like I've done gigs like that. That's insane. Advanced. It's just. It's staying healthy, staying focused. And I don't really know what advanced means, other than you now know too much. When the more you know, the less you know kind of thing. So it's just finding stuff to stay inspired. And if you're writing music, just keep listening to more stuff. Open your doors up. Don't be crusty, and don't think the genre you listen to is the only genre.
Yeah, no gatekeeping.
No,
exactly.
no, God, especially not. And if you have a chance to bring someone up, bring them up. It's hard.
It's all a big family.
It's tough
isn't
out
it?
there on the streets.
Well, I mean, it depends. If you're playing instruments or you're playing with a pop band. Cool. Anyway, really appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to
you so
come and
much,
have a coffee
Alex.
and a chat. And
Thank you.
thank you very much for watching. And until the
Thank
next
you,
one.
guys. Thank you.